The rain had not stopped for 3 days, and Mara had knocked on 41 doors. She walked along the cracked highway with Theo wrapped tightly against her chest, his small face peeking from the brown blanket, his pale eyes watching the gray world pass by. Her platinum hair was soaked, clinging to her face, but she kept walking. Behind her, the horizon shimmered faintly, a distortion in the sky that no one else seemed to notice, except when they looked at her. That was the problem. People looked at her, and then they looked away. It started 3 weeks ago, when the transport pod crashed in the wheat fields outside the county line. Mara didn't remember much, only waking up in the wreckage, Theo crying beside her, and the strange hum still vibrating in her bones. She remembered the warning from her people. Do not reveal what you are. Humans fear what they cannot explain. So she hid her eyes, pale blue, too pale, too still, behind sunglasses when she could find them, behind lowered lashes when she couldn't. She told people she was a traveler, that her car broke down, that she needed work or shelter or just a phone to call someone. 41 times she told some version of that story. 41 times the door closed. Some people were kind about it. An old woman who gave her a sandwich but said she couldn't get involved. A trucker who looked at her too long, then sped off without a word. A church pastor who prayed over her and Theo, then quietly suggested she try the next town. Most weren't even kind. Most just shut the door, pulled their curtains, told their children to come inside. It wasn't cruelty exactly. It was fear. Mara could feel it radiating off them, a primal unease they couldn't name, as if some deep part of their minds recognized that she wasn't quite like them, even if their eyes couldn't prove it. By the time she reached the small town of Ashford, the rain had turned to sleet, and Theo had stopped crying. He just stared up at her with those same two pale eyes, trusting her completely, and that trust was the only thing keeping her upright. She saw the sign first, a rusted metal placard reading Hale's Auto and Repair, ISTA 1987, glowing faintly under a flickering fluorescent light. The garage door was half open, spilling warm yellow light onto the wet gravel. Inside, she could hear the clang of tools, a radio playing low static-filled music, and a man's voice humming along, off-key and unbothered. Mara stood at the threshold for a long moment. 41 doors. She didn't know if she had it in her to ask a 42nd time. But Theo shifted against her, cold and shivering, and that decided it. She stepped inside. The man, tall, late 40s, with tan-weathered skin and a red flannel shirt rolled to the elbows, was bent over an engine block, wiping grease from his hands with a rag. He looked up at the sound of her footsteps, and Mara braced herself for the familiar flicker of unease. It didn't come. "Hey there," the man said, straightening up. His voice was warm, rough around the edges like gravel under boots. "Didn't hear you pull up. You all right? You're soaked through." "I'm sorry to bother you," Mara said quickly, the words worn smooth from repetition. "My car broke down a few miles back. I just need somewhere dry for my brother just for a little while. I can pay for the call or..." "Whoa, slow down." He set the rag on the workbench and walked closer, and Mara instinctively lowered her gaze, the way she'd learned to. But he crouched slightly instead, not to loom over her, but to be at eye level with Theo. "Hey there, buddy. You look like you've had a rough day." Theo, normally shy with strangers, reached one small hand toward the man's grease-streaked sleeve. The man chuckled. "He's got good taste. Best flannel in the shop." Then he looked up, right into Mara's eyes. She froze. This was the moment. The moment where the warmth would curdle into confusion, then fear, then the slow step backward. But the man just smiled. "You've got really striking eyes," he said simply, like he was commenting on the weather. "Theo's too, huh?" Must run in the family. Mara's throat tightened. He'd seen them, really seen them, the pale impossible blue that made everyone else flinch, and he hadn't flinched at all. "My name's Daniel," he said, extending a hand still smudged with grease, then pulling it back with a laugh. "Sorry, let's skip that part. Come on, there's a space heater in the back office, and I've got coffee that's only slightly burnt. Your car can wait. You two need to warm up first." "You don't even know us," Mara said quietly, almost a whisper. "Why would you?" Daniel paused, considering the question seriously, the way you'd consider a friend's question rather than a stranger's. "My dad used to say something," he said. He'd say, people don't usually need much. They just need someone to actually look at them. Most folks are too busy being scared of what they don't understand to bother looking close enough to understand it. He gestured toward the back room, where a small heater already glowed orange. "Come on. Get warm. We'll figure the rest out after." Mara looked down at Theo, who had already relaxed against her. His small fingers still curled toward Daniel's sleeve. Then she looked back at Daniel, at his easy, unguarded face, at the way he hadn't asked a single question that mattered, hadn't demanded explanations, hadn't recoiled from eyes that weren't quite human. For the first time in 3 weeks, the warning in her head, "Do not reveal what you are," felt less like a command and more like an old, exhausted habit. She didn't tell him the truth that night. Not the crash, not the pod, not the sky that shimmered only for her. But as she sat by the space heater with Theo finally asleep in her lap, and Daniel quietly working on her car in the next room, a car that didn't exist, she realized something. He hadn't looked away. And for the first time since the crash, neither did she.